Welcome back to another episode of CK Healing Chronicles. And I'm Ciara Lewis, your host, and my co-host is Kellesia. And we are here today to talk about breaking the silence. Just for those who don't know who we are, I'm going to introduce myself really quick. So I am the CEO and the founder of Fierce and Fearless magazine, also Men of Impact magazine, and the Men of Impact docuseries. And Kellesia, I'm going to let you introduce yourself really fast.
Hi, I am Kellesia. I am owner of Dexa Family Enterprises, Inc., and I have a nonprofit, Dexa Family Gardens, where I grew over 80 different fruits, vegetables, herbs, and planted over 8 fruit trees. Began to just turn that testimony and what God showed me through the garden and the dirt into some books on Amazon, more than 15 related to garden and a healing journey. So that would be me.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that with us. So guys, today we want to jump in and talk about breaking the silence. Last week's topic, we were talking about what it's like to carry around the silence and the weight of carrying in silence. And so today we want to talk about breaking the barrier of that and what that looks like for some people. So we also want to keep in mind that for one, everybody's healing journey is going to look different. It's not always going to be the same. Again, we're just here to kind of help you guide through that and give you some tips and tricks that have helped us. This is not a therapy session. We are not licensed professionals in any way, shape, or form. However, we are here for you. And we just want to use this time to, again, help you along your journey, answer any questions that we may be able to answer for you, and share our experiences. So again, my name is Ciara Lewis, and today I want to talk about, my breaking my silence had to do a lot with my dad. And so that is where a lot of my issues have stemmed from childhood into my current life. However, I have managed to heal a lot of that, but there are still some things that I'm still finding coming to the surface that I'm having to kind of work through. So for me, I will say, and I think this is the hardest part that we all struggle with at some point. For me, I had to forgive my dad, right? And once I learned to do that and let go of the past and all of everything, it helped me to become a better person. It helped me to more so focus on myself and what I was currently doing to better myself and moving forward, instead of all the time going back to what he did or what he didn't do or how he did this, and why, it hurt me or caused me to do, whatever. I think we all kind of go through that blame phase at some point, but I think for some of us, it goes a little deeper because we actually have been traumatized as children by either a parent or someone close to us. And so that tends to carry. Also for me, I had to realize that, I don't know my dad's background. I don't know what my dad went through. I know that, between most people that I know of that age, including my mom and even my family, a lot of families went through some things back in those days. And, because I don't know the full dynamics, I don't know what went on in my dad's house. I don't know the barriers he had to go through. And I'm sure there were some. And so I had to tell myself that, I cannot keep poking at him for something that, he may not have been able to control. And I definitely cannot keep carrying it over into my current life, because I'm an adult now and I'm responsible for how I move forward, and he is no longer responsible. So I managed to forgive my dad. That helped me out a whole lot. It helped me to move in ways that I was not able to move before. It helped me to zone in more on my relationships and how I carried myself in relationships. And it helped me to be a little more clear on boundaries and things of that nature, not even just with men, just in general, relationships in general. Because like I said, I think when we're abandoned, which was part of what the problem was with my dad, it really affects us in a lot of different ways, right? And so one of my main fears have always been either getting rejected, not being accepted or not being seen or heard. And I think as a woman, that's one of the hardest things, right? Because we already carry so much of that as is. And I struggled with that for a very long time. So that is part of why I started Fierce and Fearless as well, because it's time for us to be seen, be heard, and be fearless. And so that is how I bring us into breaking the silence today. And hopefully we can dive a little bit deeper and help you all to break into your silence as well. Felice?
Hi, everyone. I love that, Ciara. That was absolutely amazing. I'm going to go into breaking the silence for me. That was extremely hard to do, but I think I had battled, I would say, suicidal thoughts for a while, especially growing up. So, in our first episode, I believe I just touched on a little bit of the fact that I was raised in a cult for 35 years from the age of 9 years old. So that was a very restrictive environment. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things what normal kids would be able to do. I was very athletic. I was never allowed to participate in anything in the school related to me. They wanted me to run track, cheerleader, flag or anything because the coach schedule was extremely rigid. Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, my mama had female minister there, choir rehearsal on Mondays. That would only leave Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday and Thursday, she making music. So it wasn't about us anymore at that time. So just kind of growing up that way, and then all of the multiple layers of trauma that I went through led me down that I would say that dark thought process of I don't need to be here anymore. Who am I? I'm nobody. So I would say fast forward, finding out that the organization that I was in for 35 years of my life was pretty much a sham, a cult, led me to investigating heavily what I was into. And I would say realizing that 35 years of my life, in my opinion, was stolen from me. I would constantly think about what I couldn't do, what I wasn't allowed to do, relationships that they interfered with, everything, because it was all things cult at that time. So when I began to go on my healing journey upon leaving the cult, and I tell everybody, God led me to the dirt. And I say that because I didn't grow up farming. I didn't grow up gardening. I didn't know anything about any of that. So, but I knew at some point I had to find joy because those thoughts began to weigh heavily on me. They were very familiar, but they were so heavy at this point, feeling like 35 years of my life were wasted. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move. I didn't want to eat. I just stayed locked in my room repetitively, watching the same shows over and over and over again, repetitive thoughts. It just took a dark turn. So I began to say, okay, Kelly, I have two sons, and I was like, they're not babies anymore, but they were a lot of the joy that I did have. So I began to try to seek out things that made me happy. And at that time, it was not many, but I remembered I liked to go to I would say tour farms, and I loved well manicured yards and things like that. So farmers market, healthy eating, anything to do with a gardening atmosphere, because I liked visiting. So I would see certain people planting flowers and things like that. So I was led to the dirt, and I started trying to plant in my front yard, and planting flowers in a front yard and seeing them grow, and not knowing what was going on. When I would come out there and no longer see them, I would see them, destroyed, or I would see them grow and things like that. And I wanted to know what was going on, like what was causing these things to happen. And fast forward, I would love being outside. I love playing in the dirt, not playing, but digging, burying something, planting something, watching that something grow, and not focusing on the challenges of it, but I focused on the ones that grew. And I was just like, this is a great feeling for this to start off as a seed or a small seedling. And then one day I come out here and this is a lily, like, you know what I'm saying? This is a big flower, like in this stage to where I'm like, I grew this. So that joy led me to figure out, like, hey, the front yard was full. Let me go to the backyard. And then I was like, my thing really wasn't flowers, but I love healthy eating and food. And I said, let me try some food. So fast forward, trying planting seeds and trying different foods and not knowing what I was doing, but addicted to seeing growth and multiplication. And at this point, something happened. And I say something happened was I started seeing myself in everything I planted. And because I saw myself, I wanted to give it the care and everything it needed, because I was addicted to seeing something thrive, something grow, something multiply, and out of nothing, right? And when I began to see myself in everything I planted, God gave me an understanding of the planting of seeds and being, some things we talk about buried, but buried and planted are different. And because when you plant something, you're expecting something to grow. And I would say when I started to understand that, hey, the journey of a seed mirrored my life and everyone else's life, in my opinion, and I understood what was going on, the fear that I had and that I was crippled with began to break. I started to talk about the life that I never liked to talk about. I started to talk about the childhood that I was too ashamed to talk about. And I love how Ciara talked about, I didn't know the root of a lot of my silence was rejection and abandonment, because that was suffocating me. Growing up rejected, growing up abandoned, growing up shame, growing up feeling like I didn't matter and I was a mistake, and letting that replay in my head the majority of my years of my life. But something broke in me when I understood that the life of a seed mirrored my journey. And that's what the breaking of the silence, the beginning of that journey was for me. Ciara?
What? But it's, I love how you took that and you turned it into something not just positive, but something that everyone can relate to. Everyone has gone through, because that is basically life. That is the cycle of life. And I think that for me, once I realized that life had a cycle and how that cycle worked, it was a lot easier for me to start dealing and overcoming a lot of things that I had either already dealt with or that was coming up. I think it's important that we understand how life works in order for us to be able to go through life and, even try to succeed at it. And for the longest, especially when I was younger, I didn't understand. I didn't understand why my dad didn't want anything to do with me. I didn't understand why my dad wasn't there. I didn't understand why it was so much easier for him to take on a whole nother family or a whole nother set of kids that weren't even his own, but neglect me and my sister. It never clicked with me. But as I got older and as I seen how my dad interacted with them, there were some pieces that started falling in at the same time. Because I will tell you one thing, my dad does love kids. He does. I mean, I've seen him with kids and he just absolutely loves kids. I just think, again, that when my dad had me, he was young. he was supposed to have gone to one of the professional baseball teams, and then I don't know what happened, but he ended up not doing it. Let's say things took a turn for the worse. And I think that had a lot to do with him not being ready to accept having a child, him not being ready to be a father. And again, I wanted to blame him for the longest because at the time I didn't understand. It didn't make sense. I'm like, my mom's here. My mom's doing it. I'm watching my mom do everything, right? My mom is always, putting the Band-Aids on or cooking the meal or whatever has to be done. But my dad was never anywhere in sight except whenever it was convenient for him. But I think one of the things that traumatized me the worst out of all that is he would call and he would say he was going to come and get me for the weekend, or that we were going to go to the amusement park. And then I would literally sit with my bags packed and wait for hours by the window. And he would not show up. He wouldn't call. He wouldn't do anything. And then days later, I would find out that he took them to the amusement park and just literally never came and got me. So from that day forward, I literally was terrified to talk to certain people, ask certain questions. I was scared to hear the word no, because to me, no meant you're no good, and I had to learn to tell myself that, first of all, it's okay to be told no, because sometimes we have to be told no. We can't be told yes to everything. It's okay to not always get picked or to not always get to go. Just because you're not getting picked or you don't get to go does not mean you're worthless. So for the longest time, I literally believed and felt like I was worthless. I had no value. I just didn't mean anything. And so it was hard to accept that, especially being a kid. But as I've gotten older, I have realized that that is not how life works. And like you said, sometimes we plant seeds and maybe they'll sprout, maybe they won't. Maybe they will sprout and they'll grow for a certain period and then they stop growing. But until we find the right balance and until we figure out, okay, this seed has to be treated this way and has to have this much water, and this seed doesn't need that much water and it has to be treated this way, and then this seed needs a lot of sunlight, and then this seed only needs X amount of hours of sunlight, then we're able to really grow our garden, right? The garden will start to sprout like it's supposed to. So I took your method, Kellesia, and I grew my garden inside of me. Okay, I started to learn how internal me thought and processed things. And once I realized how that worked and how my inner self worked, it helped me to sprout on the outside. It helped me to grow, not just internally, but externally, to become a better person, to show up, to be able to be better and communicate better in relationships. I think it also allowed me to be a better mom for my daughter, even though my mom wasn't the part that affected me. It was my father. I think a lot of times when we see how our parenting goes from our parents, it kind of reflects back on us as a parent ourselves, right? And so I think once figuring that out, it really helped me to become a better mom for my daughter and to show up even when I was exhausted, even when I felt like a failure, even I knew I just had to show up. And so I will say that, it does make me, because me and my dad have had conversations, once I got older, obviously. And he did tell me that, he didn't know how to be a parent then. He wasn't ready. He was scared of it. And whether that's the truth or not, that's something he has to live with. But I mean, I have watched my dad suffer, and he has told me that he believes that basically it's because of how he done me and my sister when we were younger and how he denied us and rejected us. So, I have tried to stay cordial with my dad. Like I said, I would speak if I had to this day. But we definitely do not have a close relationship. I probably can't even truly tell you my dad's birthday, if I have to be honest with you. And that is sad. But I also think being able to have that closure with the person or the thing that has caused you the trauma helps a lot. And so I will say that I'm glad that I was able to have certain conversations with my dad as I got older, because it again has helped me to become a better person and understand the situation as it was back then. What do you say?
Okay. Woo. I almost needed a notepad. You know, I'm so glad. First of all, I want to say I'm glad for this podcast that we have.
Absolutely.
Because the layers of trauma for me, as well as I'm sure for a lot of women, is so many layers for me. I want to start with what you were saying about your father.
Mhm.
Same situation with my dad. Now I'm his oldest daughter. I he never wanted anything to do with me. Like literally, he always stayed a good 10-15 minutes. I would always watch him. The way he had to go to my grandmother's house, he always had to pass by my house. But it was like I was never a factor. I was never a thought. I would have to drive past my grandmother's house in the part of the city to go pretty much anywhere that I went the majority of my teenage life, and to always see your dad hanging out at his mom's house, and you see cousins and aunts and nobody thinks about me. Nobody calls me. Nobody asks me to come to the party so it was always growing up with that rejection and that abandonment and thinking something's wrong with me. And the thought of me being worthless, that was definitely a factor. Not worthless, having no worth, no value, because my dad didn't want me. The beautiful part of your story is you had a mom that was motherly. I didn't even have that. So imagine me growing up with two parents that didn't care. So I had a mom, but my mom was heavily involved in the cult. So a lot of, I had to raise myself. So this can go deep, but I know we have a lot of episodes. But hence the reason why I wrote one of my books called Honor Thy Father and Thy Mother, but What If They're Narcissists? So in my opinion, when I started researching narcissists, I would say to be raised, in my opinion, narcissists are very self-centered. It's all about them. Aloof. Like when I tell you literally that, I don't recall a moment where I felt valued and felt worthy or felt like I was somebody by either one of my parents. So to grow up like that, it was not well. It wasn't well for me at all. There comes the multiple layers of trauma, and I was abused heavily by my mother because, again, I was born from adultery. So in her eyes, this is my opinion, she looked at me like I was a mistake. And the reason why I say that is because before the beatings, if you got to hear, oh, you look like your daddy and them people, and then that's gonna cause me to get backhanded, my hair pulled out, like, it was rough. You gave the green light for your brother to have at it beating on me, and he would beat me bloody. Like, I remember laying across a chair backwards, and he beat me across the front of my chest. Like, I had brutal beatings, all because of who I was. So for me, I had no type of identity, and I constantly just did not want to be here. So I grew up always in trying to fit in, trying to be a part of other people's family, just wanting to be accepted by any and everybody. That is a recipe for disaster. And again, like I said, I love how you said that you begin to grow the garden within yourself. That's what I'm doing now, right? But I knew when I started to break the silence in the garden, when I became comfortable with speaking about it, but I didn't know I was developing that inward garden, because I just made the connection that I was the seed, but we're talking about a whole garden. So
Mm.
that's when I began to what you call companion plant. And that is finding something that grows with what you're planting that will help it in its journey. It will help naturally ward off harmful pests, and it would naturally attract beneficial pests. So that's when I began also to realize I'm surrounded by the wrong people. I'm surrounded by a bunch of harmful pests. So I just love how you said when you started doing the inner work. So when I was growing all of that food, inner work was being done. And that's when I began to have the confidence enough to say, hey, this happened to me, that happened to me. And that's when people would be like, girl, me too. Or either their story was worse than mine. Mine was so traumatic they want to cry. I just grew up really in an isolated bubble, feeling like I was just the only one.
Absolutely.
And breaking that silence let me know there was somebody else whose dad didn't kill, whether or not. And then I love how you said it. They had their own trauma. So
Mm.
I began to heal even deeper when I understood that, like, this is not a parent blame session. When I started understanding and got information on what my mother went through,
Mm.
when my dad sat and talked to me and told me how he was raised and what he went through, I'm like, so I was the product of two traumatized, abandoned, rejected parents. And Ciara is generational.
Mm.
A lot of this is generational. It is passed down through generations. And unfortunately, it just takes its claws and it can hook into us. But somebody has to break the cycle. But I
Absolutely.
realized that I came from two traumatized parents, and it made me understand and forgive them on a whole nother level. And I believe that's why my healing journey is taking off, because to get the stories of my mother as a young girl and how her mother was towards her, to get the story of my father as a little boy and how his daddy, well, oh my God, it was heartbreaking. And I thank God that I was able to get those stories here, not from them, because my mother died with that silence. She just never felt comfortable talking about her trauma. And I am, again, thank you, Ciara, for CK Healing Chronicles, because it's almost like I'm speaking for, because we talking about you, the product of your stepfather messing with you and your mother not believing you, and me having to see the family photo albums and this man all over her as a young girl, and I can put the connections together then, hearing my dad's trauma. And I just feel for them. And again, like I said, a lot of these parents, some of them, I don't know if some of them are just wicked, but some of them, they have been traumatized, and then they just pass it down. And in Ciara, in your case, I heard some men give the analogy of they were horrible fathers because if they felt like they failed in one area, when it came to raising children, that it almost like did something to them internally for them to go back and try to make that right. So then they overcompensate with the new thing instead of going back and fixing the old thing. It's almost like I failed in that area. I can't go back and do right by these girls. Like it's a mental bondage and a mental turmoil that a lot of us go through,
Absolutely.
and we put it on ourselves. Again, that's why I love this episode, breaking the silence, opening your mouth. Like my dad opening his mouth to me, telling me what all he went through, it helped me see him in a whole nother light. I no longer had resentment towards him. I no longer was angry. If anything, I felt so compassionate towards him. It makes me just want to just love on him because of the trauma he endured. my mother, to see her suffer like that in her life because she decided not to break her silence. And it was hard watching her suffer like that. And
Yeah, that's,
oh, it's hard. Yeah, it was hard.
that's you know how when you pick a couple of vegetables or something and you're like, oh, this batch wasn't that good. But then you go get your next batch and it's like, oh, this one's better. Or this one's, you know, I kind of got that with my dad because even though my dad wasn't always there, my aunts were always there. Like,
Mm.
especially one of the sisters, she would come and get me just about almost every other weekend. Or if my dad was supposed to come and get me and she knew he wasn't able to come, she would come and get me. Both of them were very active with me, but I definitely stayed with one more than the other. But I've seen both of them as equal. And just being able to still have that meant a lot to me, because even though I felt rejected by my dad, I didn't feel rejected as a whole, as the family. I didn't feel completely left out. So, how you were talking about dry, because my dad was the same way. My dad literally lived maybe like 10 minutes from my house. He also drove an ice cream truck. And there would be several times he would drive through the neighborhood. He would drive down the street. He would drive past my grandma's. And, some days he may stop, some days he may not. You just didn't know what was going to happen. But no matter what, my aunts always showed up. My aunts always included me. They would call. Even when my aunt on my mom's side just passed, my aunt was there for me on my dad's side. She knew what I was going through. She called and checked on me. She came up there and, sat by me and hugged me and all the things. And so I think that sometimes, we don't get the best batch out of the garden. But I think that if we continue to try to grow it and we continue to put in the right love and the right care, that the batch will turn out better. I think that if we look at the bright side on each situation instead of just focusing so much on the negative, we can really turn around the situation and again, grow from that instead of just staying stuck in the negative all the time.
I love it. You already know, girl. You start speaking gardening, I see all kind of stuff. So one thing about growing a bunch of food, like I grew some of those little, we call them little runts in the garden. So some of those small okra were the sweetest.
Yeah.
Some of the small zucchini taste the best.
Mm-hmm.
I grew watermelon a huge size where you have to pick it up like this. And I also grew some that I could fit in the palm of my hands.
Mm-hmm.
But the one in the palm of my hands, they had just as much seed in them as the big, huge watermelon had. And for me to see the variety that goes throughout the garden,
mm-hmm.
and like you said, all of them matter. Everything not gonna sprout, everything not gonna grow. But to have a whole bunch of different fruits and vegetables, and they all got different sizes, you know what I'm saying? Some small, some large. So some of them that were big, they didn't taste that good. They we talking about a smaller cucumber had more flavor than a big cucumber. So again, what does that mean in life? Do we value the bigger, best relationship? I love the fact that you had aunts that showed up for you. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that's like. Or when somebody did show up, you're leading me and showing me and directing me down a path that was dark, that even would make me a worse. I mean, literally, you're showing me how to get drunk or do, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying, like, I don't know what it's like to have a positive at that age, loving, caring adult to try to show up for me and try to help in no type of way. So that's amazing, and kudos to your aunts. Kudos to the people watching this that have somebody that tried to show up. somebody that tried to break the cycle, somebody tried to show love, somebody that tried to pick you up. You know what I'm saying? But then you have the ones out here like me, that nobody came for, but I say I'll equate myself to the little bitty cucumber and the little bitty okras. Oh, we're so sweet. So just because what you think is the little runts of the garden, we had a lot of flavor. So I'll say that. And I love how you said it's not a beat down session. That's why this is a healing podcast. And we have to look at all things life. And once you grab a hold to forgiveness, it's the best feeling ever. I'm watching certain people treated me a certain way, and I had to watch them in their later life. I've watched the suffering. And again, for me, I'm like, Lord, don't let me suffer like that. You know what I'm saying? But I've watched it. So we don't get away with things. And the seeds we sow, you reap what you sow. And me with my boys, I believe they said I was a great mom. I just never wanted them to feel like they were abandoned. I never wanted them to feel like there was a mistake and didn't matter, because I knew what that felt like. If anything, I was overprotective, too much of a disciplinarian. So they, I say that, but they were like, no, we needed it. We look at what's out here now. But and that was because, like I said, my overprotective, overbearingness, over all of that stuff was because I never had that. So I just didn't want them to grow up feeling like I felt, because I knew what those thoughts were leading to and trying to pull me down that rabbit hole that you can't come up out of. So look how many people we heard about hit suicide. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, everybody don't make it. So to just have these platforms where you're able to talk to somebody that sees stuff differently. You're able to see that, hey, somebody went through what you went through. Somebody had, you know what I'm saying? And just bring to light a lot of these things that want to be kept secret and in silence, but you hold these things in, but again, I came from two depressed parents because they were riddled with childhood trauma. So what happened to me? I grew up with depression and childhood trauma, so yeah. You got anything else to add to that, Ciara?
But you turned out to be strong, beautiful. You were able to figure it out. And, kind of going back to the big things that we grow in the garden, and the little things, the big seed, the little seed. When I was younger, my dad would have been that big seed that I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this, or it's so imperative, but as I got older, I realized I was too focused on that big seed that was never, and I'm not saying that my dad is nothing. I'm just saying that for me, unfortunately, me and my dad weren't able to have that relationship. And for me, that was not a true link that missed to where I couldn't grow, right? I was still able to fruition without the other seeds. And some people may not like how I'm getting ready to say what I'm getting ready to say, but it's true. My aunts in that situation, they would have been that smaller seed that most people would have been like, there's no way that can make that much of a difference in your life. If only my aunts knew the impact that they had on me, like especially my aunt that passed away. Well, both of my aunts that passed away. Funny thing is they both had the same name. But if only they knew the impact that they carried on my life, even to this day. And the current aunt that is still, well, there's several aunts that still living on my dad's side, but the aunt that I'm the closest with, I have watched that woman go through so much, and she does not understand how inspiring she has been to me throughout life. And if it was not for her to take her time, her energy out to come and pick up where my dad wasn't able to, I could have missed out on a lot. I could have missed out on that side of the family. I could have missed out on understanding that side of the family. I could have missed out on a lot of different things that I do feel became vital. I do feel became very important and helped shape who I am today. And so I do think, like you said, we've got to stop always trying to go after the bigger seed and pay attention to those smaller seeds in the garden, because sometimes, like you said, those are the best ones to eat. They carry the best.
Yes, I need to say this before I forget, because you're just dropping gems. You're dropping them. So one of the things that I did start to understand while I was on this healing journey, and I always say floodgates just opened up, and one of the sayings I loved to say was, a diamond is just a piece of charcoal that handles stress exceptionally well. And I say that because I wanted so bad for my father to be in my life. But I remember having a conversation with one of my half siblings. And when they began to tell me what type of life they had in the household that they were in, I had to drop on my knees and repent. Because sometimes you want something so bad, but what if that version of that person would have damaged you on a whole nother level or beyond repair because of that particular time in their life? So Absolutely. When this sibling told me what type of situation that they grew up in, and I will watch certain things in my life with certain sides of the family, and I would be like, you mean to tell me the majority of my life I was beating myself up wanting to fit in and be a part of? And I was like, God, I think you were saving me this whole time. This is not always everybody's testimony, but I'm gonna say, for me, I had no idea. And what if that person what if the person he was back at that time was so dark, you was actually saved from that particular type of experience? So in actuality, some stuff is not as bad as we thought it was. Yes. I've seen some people grow up in some 2-parent households and they turn out to be monsters. You know what I'm saying? And then I know I got some uncles, I got some cousins, and I'm watching the type of dad they are and mom, and they're there and they doing serious damage. So I really had to adjust my thinking. Like you said in the beginning, working on me. And I'm actually seeing this movie, I'm seeing different parts of the movie play out. And now I know everything happens for a reason. And it's all for such a time as this. And I love saying, because I'm telling you, I could go out and do cartwheels now. Because when I started really paying attention to what was going on in the garden, opening up, being a little bit more talkative and going around people and start kind of watching people's situation. And I'm like, so I was coveting certain people relationships, and everything that look good ain't good. Every household that look great ain't. Right. Every mother and daughter relationship, every father and daughter relationship. I mean, we're part of a group. Ciara, tell somebody on Facebook, you're watching some of the young girls that grew up in the house with their dad and what their dad was doing to them.
Yeah.
We're watching some of the young men and we're talking about in the household. I've had somebody contact me on Messenger and tell me what their mother used to do to them. And the father did not know, died not knowing that your wife was a monster to your girls. So again, and I sat around beating myself up, wanting so bad something that was I really being saved from? Girl, it's good. It's good. Because look at you now. Would you be that same? We're talking about a man, like you said, what did you say in the beginning? Some contract he was supposed to get and didn't get.
For Major League Baseball team.
Let me tell you, what would it be like in a household with possibly with a man that wanted this so bad and didn't get it? What was he like back then? We're talking about, nobody's talked about the D word back then, depression.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think that may have been a spiral you went down because you want something so bad and that didn't happen for you. It's one thing to abandon somebody and you not be there, but what about the ones that had the person in the house that abandoned them?
Absolutely.
The one that had them in the house and rejected them. Now, unfortunately, but fortunately, I know both sides. You know what I'm saying? So it can be even more traumatic than you just not have, sometimes I wish you just never had nothing to do with me. Like, why'd you even, you know what I'm saying? Keep me with you. Why you didn't give me away? That's the type of torture and torment that I ended in, the abuse at the hands of adults because I was unwanted. And I'd be like, why didn't you just give them? And when I have to see these babies out here and deal with these abuse and hear about these abuse situations, and I'm like, these babies, they didn't ask to be here, but that's the life. That's part of what they went through. So we got some great sessions and topics to go deep into these healing chronicles. We're trying to stay focused on the topic, but we got so many other great topics. So I'm trying to stay in the breaking of the silence, but it feels good to even talk about what I'm talking about now because I wouldn't talk about that before. No, not me. I think it's in several of my books.
But you know why? Because we're breaking the silence.
Breaking the silence.
Breaking the silence.
I planted seeds through trauma. I got a great book, Planting Seeds Through Trauma. I had no idea I was planting seeds through trauma. And then when you plant those seeds and they have to break open and begin to sprout, that's what's going on now, breaking the silence. The seed is silence put in that dirt. You don't know what's going on beneath the soil. You can't see nothing. The only time you know something happened is when you see a little sprout come up, and so that's when you know something broke. So that's what we're here to do now. We're here to break that silence.
Yes, absolutely. I love it. Yes. Yeah, I definitely am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. I can remember growing up and, my grandma and my mom both always told me it could always be worse or someone has it worse than you do. And so, I learned very quickly to not resent not having my dad around or seeing other people with their dad. Instead, I embraced the fact that I had friends that still had their dads in the household, their dads to come to school, their dads to do, whatever. However, in replace of that, I was blessed to have 3 uncles who meant so much to me in my life that I don't even think they understand the impact that they've had on my life. One uncle has also passed away. He was a huge part of my life. And, I think it's very important that we realize what we have in those smaller seeds that we think aren't really doing anything or that we might not normally see. I think it's important that we realize having a handful of those come in handy because the big seeds are not always where it's at. The big seeds are not always carrying the juicy part of the fruit, and I couldn't be more thankful for having my little runts in my garden because if I didn't, I'm not even sure if I'd have a garden, I really don't.
Let me tell you. And I did I was with some young girls and did a little, I think a facilitator, they call it, where I showed them examples of different seeds and corn seeds and green green peppers and they were so fascinated to see all of the seeds coming in different shapes and sizes. you know, and just to think that little bitty pepper seed was like, and here's this big pepper, and then not only that, you open it and it has a multitude of seeds in it.
Yes.
So that's beautiful, like you said. I mean, it's not about the size.
No. And that's what I love about it. And I think once we can kind of get people to gear toward that and understand that, you know, it'll make things a lot easier as far as going down the healing process and understanding healing and understanding themselves and the situation. Because I think when we focus too much on the wrong thing or the wrong picture, then we lose what we're after, right? We lose what was supposed to come to us or come to us at that time. And, you know, kind of going back to what you said, okay, you done all that crying and praying and this and that that you didn't understand why you couldn't have been in the household at that time, but look at what you missed out on. Look at what you didn't have to endure. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, someone else did.
Yes.
But the thing is, you missed out on what you were praying for. And when we understand that the Creator has our best interest at hand, if we just listen, right? If we just focus on where He's trying to take us, we're too busy saying, "Oh, but I wanted the Ferrari, not the Honda." Okay, but He said you're not supposed to have the Ferrari. It's not time. You're supposed to drive the Honda because that's what I told you to drive until you get to the Ferrari.
And a lot of Hondas last way longer than the Ferrari.
Ferrari.
I'm just saying.
Yes.
Hey, when something wrong with your Ferrari, even though you got money, but when something wrong with that Ferrari and that be about 5,000, but something wrong with that Honda and it's what 50 or 500. I'm just saying. So
yes.
Hey, it's how you see it.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, I think the same with businesses. I think that if we would stop trying to critique other people's businesses because we don't truly understand what is going on with their business, right? Because we've all had to start somewhere. And you know, you may have the luxury to run your business at the highest elevation. Some people are not there yet. And if we would stop trying to put our nose where it doesn't belong or trying to say, well, I don't understand why she has not gotten this yet or why she's not doing that. Maybe because the Creator hasn't had it meant for her to have XYZ yet. And she's still supposed to be down here. Because what happens is eventually we watch people like that bypass the next person up, right? Because they were too busy talking about this person or worrying about this down here instead of staying in their own lane and worrying about what they were dealing with up here. And I feel like it's the same for our healing journey. If we would stop worrying about what hurt us and start figuring out and focusing on what is in us, how to heal the pain in us and move forward, then we can. Because here's the thing that I don't know if a lot of people understand. No matter how much you focus on the person or the thing that hurt you, you're not the one that will ever be able to change them. Ever.
No, not at all.
And so once we get that, again, it'll make the journey a lot easier because what we're doing is we're spending so much time over here hoping and waiting and trying to change this, something that'll never be able to be changed or that we can't fix, that we're missing the opportunity to change ourselves and to love and heal ourselves because we're too focused on the wrong thing. And so that's why I'm glad you said that, you know, you also went back and was able to have a conversation with your dad and understand, and you were able to move past that. Does it change what your dad did? Absolutely not. And no one is saying that. That's not what the goal is. But it changes how you're able to love and heal yourself now and move forward without having to hold on and trying to wait or fix something or keep something that, you know, it's important like my dad and understand why he was doing them. And I think that's a big piece as to, you know, when somebody is trying to heal from something, that they have to understand that person needs to kind of go through it themselves and understand themselves what they did wrong, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a beautiful journey. Just listening on some of the things that you were saying. When I was gardening, it's like you can't. I couldn't focus. I couldn't focus on the pain. And I told somebody gardening is like you can't have depression in the garden. The reason why you can't is because when something does not sprout or something doesn't happen, you can't focus on what did not happen yesterday, the day before that. If that seed don't sprout, you can't do nothing but plant another one. All right. You can't have anxiety, because anxiety to me is the equivalent of you're living in the future. So, you know, depression to me is like living in the past. Anxiety is living in the future. You can't have anxiety in the garden because you can't force that seed to sprout no faster than its allotted time frame. Now they got all kind of new age garden techniques. We're not even talking about stuff forcing seeds to do this, that, and the other in a record breaking time. Ain't no telling what you eating when you do all that. But I'm just saying, the traditional way of gardening, there is a time frame. So you can't force that seed to grow faster. You can't sit out there and come every day and do all kind. If it say 30 days for that tomato sprout, start looking for some in 30 days. If that tomato seed don't come up, hey, let me see. Some may be wrong with the soil, some may be the seeds. Let me see, you know. And you can't focus on what didn't happen back there. You just got to go on. And the repetition of me doing this every day, I couldn't focus on the trauma anymore. So I think it was the repetition and me focusing on the result and not getting caught up in the depression or being anxious that freed me. And that's healing in my book. And that's why I feel like it was this repetition and me seeing myself and just providing the care. I didn't have time to focus on the pain. So when I say childhood trauma memories begin to fade, I don't even think, when I see my dad, I don't think about, oh, why you didn't, it never crossed my mind. I'm enjoying seeing him. You know what I'm saying? It's been, oh, that's my dad. Like, wow, let me see what oh, that's why I'm so anal. That's why I like stuff so in order. You know, I don't focus on no more on you didn't come and get me. You wrote right past me. You never called me. You never wanted nothing to do with me. And even when I say it now, there is no tear, no crack in my throat. It's the best feeling in the world to just not have that. And I would say repetitiously planting and not worrying about what did not happen that day, yesterday, day before that, last week, last year. I love one of my favorite scriptures now is God say his mercies are new every morning. So if his mercies new every morning, why you focused on yesterday, last week? You know what I'm saying? Like that means every day you got a chance to, oh, okay, well, let me plant some more seeds. So when you gave that analogy of the seeds, Ciara, like a handful, gonna put a handful out there because some gonna sprout and some not. That's life cycle. And love how you said life cycle. I never focused on was I never really paid attention to life cycle until I started gardening, and I still did not put it together until I'm like, I am no longer sad. You know, I felt broken beyond repair. Breaking a child's spirit repetitively. That was really hard. But yeah, again, I wouldn't want nobody to have to feel like that. And that's why we're here with this platform to help any way we can with our truth. And got anything else, Ciara?
Yes, before we close out, I just wanted to say that to me, we can't have depression or anxiety in the garden because seeds are life too. So are plants, and they can pick up on what we're carrying. They can pick up on our, I'm serious. My peace lily,
Yes.
we've noticed, and it's funny because now I've got my mom into all this stuff, and so now she's like really paying attention to, but the peace lily, it goes by the mood in the
Oh, it does
house.
not play.
Or
You get stink around a piece of land and see what happened to it.
yeah,
It does not play. It wants peace. Its
yes,
name is look, you're gonna grow me in a peaceful environment, or I'm gonna show you what
yes,
I love it. I love it.
yes. And so that is what I love about gardening, planting, and again, just understanding the true meaning of seeds and plants and life in general, because again, it's all the same. It's all one. We're all, it's connected. And so that is the beauty of it. And that to me is the reason why, we can't, because again, like I said, if you think about it, we have our own internal garden. And so if we're bringing in depression and anxiety, guess what? We're never going to sprout internally, right? We're going to
What you
start drying
plant,
out.
you get it back.
Yes.
Whatever you plant, you get it back.
Yes. So that is what I wanted to piggyback off of what you said a minute ago before we close down. But yes, I think I'm super excited for this platform. It's going to be a beautiful thing. I'm definitely glad that it's going to be able to help lots of people. And I just want to again let everybody know that we are here for you. We see you. We love you. And again, if you're ever interested or feel like you have something you want to share or be on the show, please let us know, because we would definitely love to have you on here. Again, I'm Ciara Lewis, the CEO and founder of Fierce and Fearless Magazine and Men of Impact Magazine. You can find me at fierceandfearlessentrepreneur.com. You can also look me up on Facebook and Instagram at Fierce and Fearless Entrepreneur. And you can email fiercefearlessentrepreneur2025@gmail.com. And Kellesia, where can they find you?
Yes, again, I am Kellesia Sheree, owner of Dexa Family Gardens, Inc. and Dexa Family Enterprises, Inc. And you can reach out to me. My website is www.KellesiaSheree.com. My Gmail is KellesiaSheree@gmail.com. My Facebook is Kellesia Sheree. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. And I echo Ciara's comments. If you would like to be on the show and dialogue with us, we would love to have you. Just reach out to one of us and let us know. And thank you for taking this time to listen.
Absolutely. And the last thing I wanted to say is our next week's topic will be breaking generational cycles, the curses. So I'm super excited about that topic, and I can't wait to dive into it with you all. So we will look forward to seeing you all next week, or actually tomorrow. We'll be doing another session tomorrow. So today is Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking to make sure I'm not losing. Just kidding. So yes, tomorrow, that's what we'll dive into. But yes, so we will see you all at the next session, and we hope you all have a good week. Peace, love, and happiness.
Bye.